Hi, everybody. Jose Luis Morales here. Welcome to another episode of the Residual Real Estate Agent Show. Today, we have Erik Gladish here today. He is one of our eXp partners and actually one of the very first believers in eXp in Ventura County. I still remember our lunch at Lure Fish House, and I remember our very first conversation. It's an honor to have you. It's an honor to see the progression as well, too. Like from the first time that we met to now taking listings and kind of doing some big things to working deals together, working flips together. Mm-hmm. So welcome to the show, Erik. And then we also have the one and only Aaron Novello here.
That's right.
So welcome on the show, and we're excited to have you.
Excited to be here. Honored to be here. Yeah, a real privilege. So thank you, gentlemen, for all that you do and all that you serve us with.
100%,
awesome.
man. It's our pleasure.
Yeah.
So for those viewers who don't know who Erik Gladish is, who is Erik Gladish and how did you get involved in this wonderful world of real estate?
Yeah. So come from a family of developers and a history of land ownership here in California, farmers and cattle ranchers. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I love California, fourth generation here. And I love Ventura County as well.
How long in the real estate business, and what made you want to get involved in the real estate resale?
Right. So I sold my first property about 20 years ago, straight out of college. My dad is a developer, so he had a development, and you didn't need a license to sell if you're related to the developer. So I sold that. Then I took a bit of a circuitous route to sales. And now that I'm here, I'm happy to be here. I think looking up to you guys and looking at what you guys accomplish and how sophisticated you are as communicators mm-hmm. and negotiators, I think that's something that I aspire to.
Yeah. And I remember our very first meeting when I met with them at Lure Fish House. We kind of, I think at that point, previously, you were with a real estate team. Mm-hmm. And I think at that point, you were transitioning from that real estate team. And then I remember you kind of sharing with me some of your goals. So what I wanted to ask you is, what made you want to make the transition to eXp Realty? And then what has been your experience from when you were with a team mm-hmm. to now transitioning full-time to eXp Realty?
Right. So knowing that there's a lot more potential out there to list and sell at a high volume and not have to split it or not to have the brakes put on by a broker, that was one of the main attractions. And then sitting down with you and seeing that, I think the comparison to how much time and money you would need to buy a building and get return on investment versus attracting some people to do what we're doing, it really started to make sense after that conversation. Mm-hmm. And the experience is just kind of mind-blowing, to be honest. Like, yeah. I was in a brokerage where people wanted to keep you back and not really share all the information so that you wouldn't surpass them. Damn. And here, it's just transparency. It's full, like, open the kimono. Here it is, That's cool. So it's really awesome to be here.
You like to open the kimono, don't you?
I love to. I don't know what that means, but whatever it let's means, go. It sounds good. You know?
That's awesome. And I'm taking notes here because what I think is very interesting is it seems like you come from, like really, really good like stock. Like you come from hardworking people, because mm-hmm. I know farming is not an easy thing to do. Mm-hmm. You just look at him and he's a strapping young man, right? So it's a hardworking thing to do. And you also come from people who have married that hard work mm-hmm. with business acumen, mm-hmm. right? Where they transition that into development and things of that nature. So I guess I'm curious because you've had proximity really to both of those. Mm-hmm. You had proximity to hard work and business acumen. Mm-hmm. So I know it started to make sense to you. I was writing down, it made sense to you from a financial perspective as you looked at it. Mm-hmm. Was there anything else you saw in Jose and in what we're doing mm-hmm. that you could easily make a kind of a correlation with what you've witnessed from your own personal life being exposed to people that were both hardworking and had really strong business acumen?
What I saw is, I mean, I started following Jose on some social, and there are some clips where he's like, just came back from a listing, right? And then he just spilled the beans on what he did to get the listing. I was like, mind blown. Like, who does that? Who shares how they got the listing? In this world, everyone wants to be secretive. Don't tell them the secrets, right? But it's so transparent with Jose, and it's really up to us to really digest and implement and take it as far as we want.
That's awesome. So it seems like that idea of transparency and collaboration.
Correct.
Yeah, because we just we're having a conversation, and this idea that collaboration is the new currency. So finding people that you can collaborate with, where in the past you may have looked at Jose as a competitor, and now you look to him as a collaborator,
right?
Where you guys actually work together.
Right. Yeah. Right. We've done 2 deals together and one with the team with your sister.
And it was funny because before we started working at eXp Realty, I almost felt like we didn't do too many deals together.
Right.
And I felt like when we started collaborating, it led to more potential. Like he sold us a property that we're flipping, and I ended up putting a deal together on another listing that I was having trouble selling. And he actually brought the buyer, and I was having trouble selling that listing, and his client got a great deal. Our client was happy because he was able to sell it. I think for me, what you're saying is that like this idea of like people wanting to hold individuals back so that you don't surpass them is like so common in anything, you know, and that idea of you being able to ask anything. And for me, it's an honor, bro, to be able to kind of like share anything that I've learned. And I know that you've asked me some questions, and I know that Sean, who's also part of our eXp family, has asked us some questions, and I'll be like, look, instead of me telling you, let me just show you.
Right.
And I think that's what's really powerful. And for you, I'm forever grateful, bro, because sometimes, like as an individual, sometimes people don't buy into your vision until you're already like when I started my real estate career, there was people that are like, oh yeah, I believe in you, but then they'd go buy a property with somebody else.
Yeah.
And then 5 years later, they'd be like, oh, I always knew that you would make it. You know, I always knew that you would be great, or I always knew that you would do this. And like for you, like you were one of the very first people. So like for me, I always hold a special place in my heart for those early believers, because it like you're the first, one of the very first people to take the leap with me just saying, hey, look, this is the vision for it. This is what I plan on doing. This is how I believe I can help you. And then you saying, all right, great, let's do it, you know, which I love and obviously appreciate about you.
Yeah. Yeah. And thank you. And as the Bible says, where there's no vision, people perish, right? So you do have the vision, and then it's us that can see that vision and then take it further, and you know, it's awesome, and expound upon it, and then create our own versions of the vision.
So what has you the most excited about eXp Realty?
Honestly, to be in the proximity of powerful agents and individuals like yourselves, wise men, accomplished men, and to grow my business. I know there's a lot of numbers that can get me excited, and I'm taking one step toward them every day. But yeah, the vision, 5-10 years down the line, I can see the residual show here that we're on, that has a lot of potential, and I think the amount of value that we have as a collective. And I'd like you to expound on the currency, the new currency, collaboration being the new currency.
Yeah, so I heard somebody say one time, which I thought was really interesting, is that the moment that their life changed was when they stopped looking at everybody as competitors and they started to look at everybody as collaborators. And that's interesting. And I wrote down when you were saying, like in your previous environment, it was very restrictive as far as information is concerned. And I believe that that's an old way of thinking. Right? It's also not really possible in the current environment that we live in.
Right.
Because anything you want to know, you just go online and you can see it, right?
Right.
So it's an old way of thinking, which is very protectionist. And, you know, what this model promotes is it promotes collaboration, and it compensates you like an owner to collaborate. And with the power of the internet, that can grow geometrically in scale,
right,
versus something I do in the physical world, right?
Right.
And with having so many powerful people collaborate together, my experience is that you dramatically shorten the learning curve. Where, like you're a smart, hardworking guy, like, in like 25 years, you know, however long it would take, you could figure everything out and put all the pieces in place. You can condense that into like 3 years. or 2 years or 1 year, right? And this platform provides us an opportunity and compensates us for collaboration. And that's exceptionally unique. There's nothing else that I see out there that does that.
Yeah, I agree. Exceptionally unique.
Yeah.
Can you give us an example, bro, of maybe something that you've learned from me or maybe something that you've learned from Aaron that has really like stuck out to you and that you were like, man, I didn't think about this in this way, or had I not learned this, maybe I would have done this other way. Like, and it doesn't have to be an example of both of us, but just maybe one thing that you've learned that has really like had like an impact in your career, life, anything.
I wish that we had all these questions written down so I could give you the 10 or 20 that have impacted me. But so I joined. I remember one of the first times I asked you a question. You're like, tell me how you're talking to people. Like, let's run this through, you know? And I was just like fumbling. You're like, bro, you need to, how many times do you role play? I was like, maybe a couple. And then I joined all your groups.
Yep.
And now I jumped into 16 role plays a week.
16?
And
Talk about.
yeah. And then I cut back 3 because 3 were kind of group settings. So I'm now at 13. And I did a listing last week. And it was the first time where I went to a listing presentation and I was not nervous at all. I was just like, I got this. Because this year, I've done 75 listing presentations this year in practice, right? 3 a week or so all year, right? So I went there and I was comfortable, confident. I knew what to say. I knew how to handle any objection. And it was the first time I went to a listing presentation where I was just like, yeah, got this.
Is that the one that you have on Timber?
Yeah,
on
Timber Creek.
Which is an awesome listing, by the way. That listing is going to sell fast. I think you have multiple offers on it already. But it's awesome that you were able to kind of share that with us.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. And think about how long you would go in your career if you hadn't had made that decision, if you didn't get access to that type of thinking, is that you would have thought it was perfectly normal and acceptable that every listing appointment you went on, you were nervous.
Right.
And every single one, you weren't sure what you were going to say.
Right.
And every single one, and that uncertainty, imagine what that uncertainty would do when played out over an extended period of time. Where now, because you've taken responsibility, where, you know, accountability is a condition that supports your commitments and not your moods. So people have a tendency to, like, you know, they're like, oh, well, it's this and it's that and it's this. But you take accountability around, hey, I just don't practice, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, I'm really just not good at this yet.
Right.
And then taking ownership over that, spending a consistent, persistent, diligent amount of time practicing. And what it leads to, in my opinion, which is way more valuable than what you receive in the material world, is certainty. And that certainty and that calm and that poise is going to follow you for the rest of your career. And that's priceless.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's transferable as well, too. One of the things that I love, obviously, about selling real estate that I've learned is that the skills that I've learned transfer to absolutely anything, you know, from conversations with my kids, from conversations with my wife, from conversations with negotiating something with a broker, negotiating just different things that they're transferable. One of the things that I admire about you is you show up to the calls, you always bring questions, bro. Not only that, but you show up to every single call. Like whenever people have asked me, like, who is a model, like, or who's the perfect type of agent, I bring up your name sometimes. And the reason I bring it up is, like, I've told you can't imagine how many people I've told them, look, dude, like, the way that I got to where I'm at is by role playing twice a day and chanting my scripts once a day. Like, that's the way to shorten the learning curve. And when you just said that you have 16 role plays in a week, I was like, boom.
Yeah, he understood the assignment. And we and we were talking off camera before we started to do this. And I was like, bro, Erik shows up to all the calls. He's like, yeah, dude, I'm telling you, he's a model student. Yeah. And what's really cool about that is that what I'm aware of is because of that decision, right, to really plug in and really take advantage of everything that's at your disposal, the benefit to you personally is, again, what Jose was saying, is you dramatically shrink the learning curve. And then what people will imagine, Erik, is they'll look at you and they'll look at what's starting to happen and they'll think that it's magic. And they'll be like, what's the secret? And you're like, hey, bro, here's the secret. You need to practice regularly, right? You need to be disciplined with your schedule. And the way I explained it, we were at dinner last night, it's like, once you know the way, it's like a Jedi and like a Padawan. where it seems like the Jedi speaking in koans, like these mystical, magical things, but they're very simple and straightforward. But once you get it, you get it. And it's clear that you got it. And now it's just a matter of staying on the path, right? So the hardest thing about the path, once you discover it, is staying on it. But I have no doubt in my mind that that will be the case for you.
And the way I'm looking at it is like it compounds, bro. So like
Right.
maybe over a month, like you may not be able to tell the difference that Erik's role playing 16 times in a week, but over a year, over 2 years, over 3 years, like it just starts to accumulate, where the gap between you and other agents just starts growing so much faster. I did want to ask you because I know one of the things that you mentioned early on was that that one of the things you were excited about was the revenue share with the model. How is that different from other companies that you've worked with in the past?
I mean, is there a revenue share with other companies? I guess with KW there is, but it's a profit share, right? So after all, everyone gets their share, then you can get a little piece.
Correct. Yeah, and because it's based in the physical world, you have physical world expenses. So you have to get through the $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a month it costs to operate office before you get down to profit, right? But what's also interesting in that model is there is a royalty fee that goes somewhere, and that's top line revenue, not bottom line revenue. So do you know what another word is for top line revenue?
It comes off the top. Another word?
Revenue sharing.
Yeah.
So it already exists. And what this model does is it actually compensates us instead of one person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we're getting compensated the same way that one individual does at scale. We have the opportunity to do that here. So I guess, and to Jose's point, is from coming from the background that you do with the business acumen and land development, what was it about that you saw it immediately? Because some people don't see it immediately. Like we hear a lot, like people are like, oh, I don't want to recruit. It's like, fine, you don't have to, right? We're all about production and being productive. But what was it about that once you saw it, you're like, I can't unsee it?
So let's take some of your examples, right? Some of your buildings, right? And
Yeah.
how long would it take to get the $1 million? And then what's a reasonable return on the $1 million? Let's say 5%. And then running those numbers compared to how long 5 people could be attracted to your organization. And then if those 5 people also brought 5 people, the numbers start to align, and you look at the opportunity costs and you look at how long it would take to buy those buildings and get them rehabbed so that you could get that profit. And it became abundantly clear just comparing it to real estate, commercial real estate.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I wrote down here that I'm not interested in like an addition and subtraction. I'm interested in multiplication and expansion. I'm also interested in quantum leaps. I'm not interested in like incremental gains. So to your point is, for you to get, let's say, just $2,000 in residual, I'd have to invest between $400 to $500, earning 5 to 6%. Now, in order to do that, I would have to gross probably 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. You pay taxes, you live, and then you store the 400 to 500, and then you invest it. And what's interesting is with the right approach and the right strategy and the right systems in place, you can take a year's worth of work and condense it to 90 days. That's a quantum leap. And that's what we're interested in. And it seems like that's what you saw.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well,
that's awesome.
It was funny because when we met with Erik, one of the things that I would ask agents, I'd be like, well, what is a good freedom number for you? Like, how much would you like to earn in residual? And then they would tell me like, oh, $10,000 a month, $15,000 a month. And then I would ask them, I said, well, how much would you have to invest in order to have that in residual? And the look that I saw on their face, bro, was just like no idea. So it was interesting to me how like everybody had these residual goals, but nobody knew how they were going to achieve it. So for you, I remember breaking it down and being like, well, look, if your goal is $10,000, $20,000 a month, this is how much you would have to invest at this type of return. This is approximately how much you would have to make after taxes, expenses, and everything. And when we looked at that number, bro, that number was millions of dollars, like $6 million. And you start to ask yourself, which one seems more attainable? Is it to save up $10 million at 6% and invest that, meaning you've got to gross like 20 million in order to do that? Or to have this additional vehicle where by inviting people to join the company, you can earn as much residual as you could over here, but a lot easier with a lot less stress as well too. Not only that, but people imagine, well, like, I don't want to do this. What if you did both? What if you invested in the physical asset, sold the real estate, and then had another opportunity. Because one of the things that attracted me about the company is that when I was at Remax, I brought in probably about 10 agents to the company. And at the time I was just like, great, it's a great company. Like, I'm happy to bring them on. But then when I found out about eXp, I was like, wait, so if you're telling me that if I introduce agents to the company, I can actually earn a portion of the revenue. Not only that, but a portion of whoever they bring on, they bring on, and they bring on. And that's when it was like, boom. And for me, it clicked when I had kids. And you have little ones as well, too. But for me, that was one of the things that clicked. So I wanted to ask you, what are some of the concerns that you had maybe before joining eXp? Like, I would imagine, like, if I don't know if that was the first time that you ever heard about the company eXp. I know I had some concerns. I know Aaron
Had a few concerns.
Had some concerns as well too. What about you? Like, what are some of the concerns, and how have those concerns played out for you as it relates to real estate?
I think my major concern, being relatively new, is access to brokers. So in my previous iteration, I was able to knock on the door, right, and ask questions to the broker. But even then, like, maybe later in that day, he would get back to me, or even tomorrow. So it wasn't immediate. So my concern was how much access can I have in the cloud to a broker to answer some questions that I do have. And it's really amazing. Like, within 5 minutes, I can be face to face, avatar to avatar, with a California broker and get all the questions answered.
Which is so interesting, and I really appreciate you bringing that up, because really that's just a change in thinking, where because of, and we're of similar age, so we remember a time before we were spending so much time in the digital world. So our mental maps of the world, like I was with Angel, and Angel's a young pup, right? He's a young guy. And we were out somewhere, and we were trying to find where we were going. My first inclination is to ask a human.
Right.
In the physical world.
Yeah.
You know what his first inclination is? To go to his phone immediately. His like third level trying to figure it out is to talk to a human.
Right.
So what's interesting is this mental change where there was a restrictive kind of limiting belief, like, oh, the only way I could get my questions answered is if I knock on the door and I see a physical person. And yet, which is interesting, because we were talking off camera, you know, like this model, I think at first was like a theory. Like, would this work? Is this really going to work where you don't need like physical offices and space? And then we had COVID. And for a whole year, nobody went to the office, and it didn't matter. And it was perfectly fine. And everybody met virtually, and they met via Zoom, or they met, you know, in different kind of avenues. So that was just like a little bit of a shift. And it sounds like you've experienced that, in fact, yes, you can get access to people whenever you want. It's just a different way versus physically knocking on the door. Now you're going to be able to be with them just in the digital world, and you can accomplish that in either the same amount of time or faster than you would if you just knocked on somebody's door.
Yeah, my experience is you accomplish it a lot faster.
Yeah.
In the cloud, in the digital world, because they're there, and you just show up, your avatar and your microphone, and bam, the most complex question or problem I ever had, I easily get answered.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because that same concern that you had is the concern that I hear a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I have to be in a physical office, or I have to do this, or I need a broker to talk to, or will the brokers actually talk to me?
Well, do you remember when we were having a conversation and role playing, and somebody was saying like, yeah, I need to be in an office, and I asked a question. I'm like, well, let me ask you this. Is it the physical office that has value to you, or is it just getting your answers to questions that's really more valuable? Which is actually more valuable to you, right? It's like, okay, and candidly, how much time do you actually spend in the physical office? And they're usually like, no, not that much. I just want to be able to talk to somebody if I have a question.
Right.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What are some of your goals, bro? Like now, like that you've transitioned to over eXp, what are some things that are exciting to you? What are some goals that you have as it relates to real estate sales, as it relates to eXp revenue share? And yeah, what's got you the most excited about this?
I mean, being close to you is I'm a young pup, and I mean, I'm always aiming for the top dog, right? So to mirror something similar to what you've been able to accomplish. I'm still working with buyers, so I'd like to transition just to listings, and you know, just keep doubling, I guess. So
now,
yeah.
I don't know if this is true. Have you taken more listings this year than any other time in your career? I almost feel like every time I talk to you, there's like a new listing taken. Or has anything do you feel like you're getting in a rhythm now where it's actually becoming a process and a system to be able to take on more listings and actually carry a larger inventory as well too?
Yeah, so I'm still riding the roller coaster of transactions, right? And there's some great months and some months where I'm looking for the next great month. And yeah, I'm taking more listings than I ever had, and being able to service those listings too in a high quality manner.
What do you attribute to you taking on more listings? Like, what do you think, like, one of the changes, like, for maybe like somebody out there who wants to transition a little bit more from a buyer's agent to more of a listing?
Yeah, and is it a skill? Is it like a character trait? Was it a limiting belief? Like, what was it that is allowing you now to begin to make that transition?
I'd say it's a skill,
Yeah,
and then also character trait, right? So you need a certain amount of transactional volume to be able to be conversant with what is the foreseeable problems that might arise.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a different discussion. But again, like the 75 role plays that I've done this year have given me the skill to be able to have those conversations and to move the transaction along and move into closing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's precisely why, I created that, right? Is to create an environment that mimics the environment that I created for myself at the beginning of my career. So you're now role playing on a regular basis, and now what you're saying is like, look, my skills are never going to be a reason that I don't take advantage of an opportunity. Because in this business, there is no like security. There's only opportunities. At the same time, if I can get my skill level to such a degree that if there's an opportunity, there's an 80-90% chance I'll be able to execute on that opportunity. I've just created security for myself and my family, right? And by being in that environment and getting that proximity, now that's something that you can carry with you and pass along to others.
So for the viewers that don't know, what is the role play group?
Yeah, so the role play group is something created by Aaron Novello.
Yeah.
And 5 days a week, you're guaranteed a role play partner. So listings are at 8:30 on California time, and then the other role play is at 7:30.
Yep.
So before I start my calls at 9 a.m., I've already done 2 and then sometimes 3 role plays. So before 9 a.m., sometimes I'm at an hour and a half of role plays.
Yeah, and for our partners, that's something that is free to them, that other people would have to pay to be in.
You ruined it, man. I was going to ask him, how much does that, I was going to ask him, I was going to be like, how much does that cost you?
Man, that sounds incredibly valuable. How much do you pay for that, bro?
Right. No, I did pay for it because I joined in like October, November.
Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
but I haven't asked for a refund.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's
no
good.
worries. Yeah.
I think he's asking.
I think he is now. I think that's what's happening. He's asking for it
No,
now.
it's all good.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
What other things do you get access to, bro, that like you find valuable or helpful? And like, what has been your experience with some of the other things that are added on top of like whatever eXp, or even like with eXp, what other things do you like that you have access to basically?
Lars, he was able to sell 430 or 40 homes working 1 day a week, right? So he knows the business model of how to extract yourself from doing all the work, but having the systems in place. Every week on Friday. So what I do is I encounter a bunch of questions during the week. I put them on my notes, and then I ask you on our calls on Friday, and then Aaron on Wednesday. And my wife likes to join those calls. And she's in the background. She's like, he's such a wise man.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So have the baby and the wife in the background for Aaron's calls during the week. Yeah.
Man, I don't get the wife on the back.
Nah, bro, you don't get it, bro. Sorry, man. I'm sorry.
Come
You gotta
on.
step it up, bro. Come on, man.
I know. But I think being in proximity to other people as well too, like actually allows you to step up your game as well too. I know that for me, like being in proximity to Aaron has allowed me to kind of step up my game and kind of realize that there's different levels as well to this as well. So Erik, any final closing thoughts or anything that you feel that would be helpful to the audience? Maybe somebody considering eXp, maybe somebody considering either getting mentored by myself or even Aaron or even Lars. Any final closing thoughts that you think would be helpful to the audience?
Yeah. So the value that you guys are delivering is just incredible. As you said on the call the other week, it's just stupid.
Yeah.
It's just phenomenal. So if anyone wants to grow and learn and develop skills to be successful, there's no one better than you two gentlemen. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. I mean, I really appreciate what you guys are doing.
So you're saying that we just didn't promise you all these things, brought you on, and then said, thank you so much. We'll collect the commission, and you're on your own. Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
You guys are over delivering what you're promising. It's over. I mean, I kind of feel guilty. Like, I really do. It's just like,
I love
wow.
that.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting. Well, first of all, it's a privilege and a pleasure. You know what I mean? Without you, there'd be no place for us. So it's very mutually beneficial. What I'm also aware of is that, we want to exchange with people in ways that are overly abundant. Like the fact that you're saying that I'm stealing from these guys, like I feel bad, but like that's the goal and objective.
Yeah.
We want you to feel that way.
Right.
So I'm glad that you do.
Yeah, I definitely do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you.
I want to end this, Erik, just by saying I'm extremely proud of you, bro. I am excited about watching your growth for the next 5 years, bro. It's funny because you and a couple of other people on eXp remind me of myself 5 years ago. And 5 years ago, I didn't have the reputation that I have now. People would see me out in the hallway chanting my script or out in the parking lot. And at that time, there was nobody else in Ventura County doing it, bro. So they thought I was literally crazy, bro. And I look back, I'm like, who's crazy now?
Let's go.
Like, who's really crazy now? Because I knew, because I had seen it by other people, I knew that if I stayed on that path, that in 3 to 5 years, I was going to be in a different position. So I'm already seeing that with you, bro. And I'm seeing it like big time. And I know that it's a matter of time before it accumulates. The last and closing thoughts for me, this is the last thing I wanted to say. Recently, I was approached by another brokerage here locally, and they said, we'll give you ownership in the broker if you are open to starting up your own brokerage in Camarillo. And then you'll get access to this, you'll get access to that. I even got to the point, you may not know this, where a company, Coldwell Banker, offered me $250,000, bro, as a signing bonus. And what I told them is like, look, I look at that as just a pay advance. Like, I'm not interested in a pay advance. And when I was switching brokerages, I only considered 2 brokerages. It was this one and another one. But the reason I made the move to this brokerage is, as a top agent, bro, and you're going to start to experience this as obviously you continue to grow, you're going to get offers like from brokerages saying, hey, look, we'll give you ownership in this, we'll give you ownership in that. But what I enjoyed about this model is that it gives the same opportunities to any agent within the company. Like, if I were to join that company, bro, I get that opportunity. But what happens to Erik Gladish, who's doing 20 deals at that time? How come Erik doesn't get that same opportunity that I got at that time? How come Adrian, who's a newer agent, doesn't have that same opportunity? This company, the moment you join and the moment you do your first sale, the moment you bring somebody else on, they make you an owner within the company. You invite somebody within the company, they give you a portion of the revenue. That is unlike other companies that I've seen, and it's a win-win situation for everybody. And that was one of the things that I enjoy most about the company, that everybody gets the same opportunity as a top agent. As a top agent, you get access to title ownership, loan ownerships, you get title to real estate ownerships. With a lot of companies, you don't have access to that. If you're a regular agent, eXp gives you access to that.
That's
and that's
right.
one of the things that I love about this.
Yeah, and you're never going to get rich renting out your time. Like, you have to have equity.
Yeah.
And this provides that. And then the other thing in kind of closing is, personally, I want to do business with people that I like and enjoy. I want to do meaningful work with people I like and enjoy. So I had a lot of opportunities, just like Jose did, people coming after me. The reason I chose to partner with Jose is we have an awesome relationship. He also has a super high level of integrity. He has a lot of energy, and he's sharp as a tack. And I know, based on our time spent together previously in the digital world and now in the physical world, that you fit that criteria as well. So we are together doing meaningful work with people that we like and enjoy. So if people want to find you, brother, like if they want to connect with you, ask you any questions, right? Or perhaps talk to you about, the opportunity, where can they find you?
Yeah, so Erik Gladish at Instagram, it's Your Home Sold 805 Instagram, and all the other ones.
Love that.
Where can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me at Aaron Novello on TikTok.
Awesome. And then for all of our viewers out there, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Residual Real Estate Agent Show. Today we had Erik Gladish. This is a person that you have to keep an eye on because Erik's going to guaranteed to be a top producer over the next couple of years. Once again, extremely proud of you, brother. Extremely proud of all the growth. And this is somebody to model after. And I can't wait for you to look back at this interview 5 years from now and just remember, bro, be like, damn, those 16 role plays a week, those 2 role plays, hour and a half before 9 a.m. really have changed my life. So thank you so much, Erik. We appreciate you, man. And we're super excited about going on this journey with you.
Yeah, I'm excited. And thank you guys for all that you do and all that you over deliver. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Thank you.